At Kentucky, I played with 26 NBA draft picks and 32 total overall professionals, including the overseas guys. It's that fraternity and fellowship of Kentucky basketball and seeing where everybody is, seeing how their families are going and how their personal lives are. That meant a lot to me.
You're listening to the Griffon Sports Insider podcast, giving you an in-depth look at Missouri Western athletics with interviews, features, game broadcasts, and more. Here's your host, Tommy Rezach.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Griffon Sports Insider podcast. Talking a little men's basketball today with Jon Hood, who's getting ready to enter his fourth year as the Missouri Western men's basketball, one of the Missouri Western men's basketball assistant coaches. But the reason we want to talk to Jon, the former Kentucky Wildcat, he was an assistant coach for the last week or so for La Familia in the basketball tournament 2024. La Familia being a team comprised of many notable Kentucky alumni playing in Lexington, Louisville, and Philadelphia. La Familia was a 2 seed in the Lexington Regional, getting wins over the 305 Ballers from Miami, the Nuff from North Atlanta, and also then a win over the Louisville alum. A huge win for La Familia, getting all the way to the semifinals in a prestigious event, a tournament field of 64 teams, $1 million on the line, games that were nationally televised on Fox Sports 1, and Coach Hood got to help coach La Familia, many of his former teammates in this huge event. And Coach Hood back on campus, back to reality, as he put it. Coach, thanks for joining us. Man, what an experience for you and for Big Blue Nation, I know. Welcome back, for one, and for two, just how do you sum up that whole experience in TBT?
It was great. Anytime you get to have basketball in July, it's top notch. Yeah. And especially when it's good basketball in July. Like you said, a bunch of those guys were my former teammates, and the guys a couple guys had to drop out due to signing contracts with professional teams, and two of those would have been my teammates as well. Wow. And it was great to work with pros, and I could probably have come up with a team myself just of former teammates. I've played at Kentucky. I played with 26 NBA draft picks and 32 total overall professionals, including the overseas guys. So it was a couple of them didn't play, but I bet that they'll be ready to play next year.
Yeah, 2009 to 2014, right, was your time in Kentucky. And Jon Hood in that time, 86 games, 95 points, 66 rebounds, 3 Final Fours, part of that national title team under Coach John Calipari in 2012. But some of the people that were playing, that you got to coach and be with again, Eric Bledsoe, James Young, Daniel Orton, Willie Cauley-Stein, Andrew and Aaron Harrison. And what did I read that at least 8 of the guys on this team, La Familia, had either played in the NBA or were playing in the NBA or were 5-star recruits. This was, I read, perhaps the best La Familia team ever, right?
It was a team that was well put together and had a lot of talent. The ones you didn't mention was Karam Cantor. And Karam played at Xavier, but he is Ennis's brother. And Ennis was there my sophomore year. Of course, now he's Ennis Cantor Freedom, I think. He's since out of the league, but had a good career. So it was great. Getting to work with those guys. Nate Sestina, I met him, I think, the Friday before we had our training camp, or Thursday before we had our training camp, and started to work him out, as well as some other pros that are headed back overseas that are living there in Lexington right now. And I can't say enough good things about Nate Sestina, not only the way he plays the game, he shoots the ball, but the person he is off the court. And that's what was great about everything is you get, it's been 10 years since I was there. You get all these guys back together who the last time some of them saw each other was their last day on campus. And you get them back, and it's that fraternity and fellowship of Kentucky basketball and seeing where everybody is, seeing how their families are going and how their personal lives are. That meant a lot to me.
For those that don't know, TBT standing for the basketball tournament. I know it's an open tournament. I guess twofold question. I know a lot of it is comprised of teams, like alumni teams, for example. You guys played Ohio State alumni in the semifinals, but what's kind of the background of this tournament, and how did you kind of first get involved with La Familia?
Well, I looked at it as a way to be able to learn and as kind of some career development, get around pros for that skill development. And then we practiced at the University of Kentucky. We practiced in the Joe Kraft Center, and obviously Coach Cal isn't there anymore. I wanted to see what it was like now, and it's wildly different. It is, and I promise you there will be at least one hardcore Kentucky fan listen to this in hopes that I'll share something. But no, I got to spend a bunch of time in the gym with Coach Pope. He was gracious with his time, as were his assistants, to let me be able to be a fly on the wall and learn a new way of doing things. And that was a great sight to see. I actually called our GM, Tawny Beckham, right when it first got announced. Said, I want to help. I want to be a part of this any way that I can, any way that you can use me. Please involve me. TBT, I mean, it started, I think this was the 11th year. It started, I saw online where it started with a text message. Text message was like, who would show up, and if we had a tournament with $50 million for a prize pool, who would play? And the response was everyone. Wow. So then it turned into, okay, get sponsors and $1 million winner take all, split it up however you want for the winner. So nice. It's come a long way in 11 years. They tried to get me to do a team right when I first graduated. Like, I can't get the guys y'all want. Their contracts do not allow, like John Wall's not coming to play. and all those guys. Those NBA contracts do not work that way. So.
Yeah, and John Wall was part of Jon Hood's recruiting class at Kentucky, the former Wildcat Missouri Western assistant men's basketball coach Jon Hood joining us on this version of the GSI podcast. Well, sticking with BBN for a little bit, we're coming up on 2 years since our exhibition at Rupp Arena, a game that I remember as, certain guys didn't get to play, including our own Jerron Thames, unfortunately, but it's a game where we had a lead. Kentucky was 4th in the country in Major D1 at the time, and for goodness sake, it's Rupp Arena. I mean, it is a cathedral of college basketball. Obviously, very special for you, Coach Will Martin. Of course, Will worked with you as a student manager for 3 seasons. Perry Stevenson, who was with us at the time, another Kentucky alum. So obviously, I remember talking to you before it and the anticipation and everything, but as you look back on that moment almost 2 years later, how much do you hear from BBN about, Missouri Western stop in Lexington?
Well, I talked to a few people, 5 or 6 when I was there that brought it up, and they describe it as the most boring, what were their words? The most boring exhibition game in the last 15 to 20 years.
It was low scoring.
It is exactly what it was.
Yeah.
We had our scout. We went in to win, and that's what, I mean, if we went in and intended on losing or played to lose, Coach Cal would not have liked it. I would have heard about it. Coach Martin would have heard about it. Perry would as well. So we went in and had a scout and tried to win and played very good defense, but just couldn't make a shot. Yeah. So it was – I hear about it every now and then when I go home, and it's not often these days, but it is – it is referred to as the most boring scrimmage in the past 10 to 15 to 20 years.
Well, I think I read it was like one of the lowest scoring that Kentucky, since World War II, like since the 40s, lowest number of points that Kentucky had scored in an exhibition. So hang that banner up somewhere.
50 years, it was the second lowest all time. The only one lower was by 3 points, and they played the game outside.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Well, that's a testament to, the scout and just how hard Missouri Western played. I think, Will Eames had the highest scoring, and that was 10 points, if memory serves. Jon Hood, again, our guest. Well, you're coming on your 4th year here this year, which is really hard to believe. You worked with Will at Kentucky for 3 seasons, and if memory serves, one of those you had to sit out with injury. Is that right?
I was out. My ACL and everything else that went on with my knee that year. That was the national championship year.
Okay.
So I was around those guys and played and was playing in pickup and playing really well, having a great year or a great summer, and then ACL
it was a
goes
practice
away.
injury, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Pickup.
Uh-huh.
So it was pickup. We were playing in Memorial Coliseum. So
Oh, wow.
that was the year that it kind of turned into, and Cal started calling me Coach Hood instead of Johnny Hood.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like at the time. There's a clip rolling around somewhere. Perry found it a while back, and they asked me on my senior night if I planned to coach, and I said I don't think I'd be a good coach. There's that clip that is out there, which is pretty funny because I talk about being a perfectionist and I would nitpick guys, and I think if you ask some of our players, they would probably agree with that.
Yeah. So when this opportunity came open, Will had been here for a couple of years. I remember asking Perry the same question, and he talked about, Will's infectious personality and just his level of care for not only his kids, but, for the people around him in this university and community. When Will approached you, you were at Kentucky Wesleyan at the time, your home state, and your coaching background had been in Lexington and your home state of Kentucky. Obviously it's a big thing, to move out of state, but what was kind of the ultimate selling point when Will kind of came to you with this?
Well, I wasn't on at Kentucky Wesleyan as a full-time coach.
Oh, okay.
I was still part-time, and I was working another job, and talked to my wife throughout the year, like, okay, this is something that I want to do. This is what I'm called to do over what I was doing. And we had a conversation. She said, okay, after the season, go after jobs. So I went after jobs, and every job that I would go after, it would miraculously vanish and go away and get filled or whatever. I wasn't looking for the Missouri Western job.
Sure.
Coach Martin called me and said, I have X amount. I don't know if I can afford you. And my response was, try me. So it's been great. Will has been fantastic to work with and work for. He was gracious enough to let me go out and be gone for a full month is what it was that I was back in Kentucky, and then 4 days in Philly. But it's been great. It's been rocky. We haven't won as much as I think either one of us would like to. But we're hoping this is the year, and we hope we think we have the staff and the players in place to make a deep run this year.
Yeah, going on year number 5 of the Will Martin era. Let's talk about this team a little bit. And, I know last season could be summed up as electric start, disappointing finish, but still 17 wins, not only the winningest year in the Will Martin era, but one of the better seasons when you look at win total of the last 20 years. I know it's still, the bar is higher, trying to get back to that NCAA tournament like this team did in 2020 and 21. You bring in some really exciting guards, Zane Smith from Division II Arkansas Monticello, a guy that was averaging over 19 points a game. Dev Butler from VMI, a Division I school, started every game this past season, 71 games at the D1 level over the last 3 seasons. I know you guys are still kind of finalizing, what this roster is going to look like exactly, but for Zane and Dev, 2 electric guards who can share it and shoot it and score it at a high level.
They can. It's actually Zane Nelson.
Oh, Zane Nelson.
It's all right. Zane Nelson he was a great pickup for us, as was Dev. Both have a lot of experience. It's been good getting to know them. Obviously, Dev is on campus early. He's here. He's around. He's getting kind of acclimated. Zane can really score it. He can score at 3 levels. Can shoot the ball. Can get downhill. And has a nice little mid range and floater shot with him. Devin can really, really guard. When he came on his visit, he was picking up 94 feet, and that was something that was, not many people do that. I wonder if he's getting ready to get blown by, and he held his own. He started all those games for a reason. He brings a ton of experience and a ton of toughness.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Coach Martin talked to me a little bit about this, that the offensive philosophy, it might be a little more guard heavy this year, a little bit shooting at a higher volume, maybe playing a little quicker. What can you speak to that in terms of just what role the guards are going to play and what that might look like this year?
Well, it's the player's job, just in basketball and coaching in general, it's the player's job to force the coaches to play them. If they aren't doing their job and making us play them, then you have to switch up and change your philosophies and everything else. We believe that those 3 guards especially, and then you add in Josh Book, who had a great year,
yes.
Matt Schneider, like you add in those guys, and you have to be guard heavy. And we don't have our old school 4-man or mobile big like we did with Will Eames, where we could play him at the 4 and the 5. It's going to look different. We're still working on schemes and sets and all that, and that will come over the next month and a half, just to kind of finalize everything. We're a little behind the 8 ball since I've been gone, but we just had a meeting. We'll have another one when I go back about offensive philosophies and everything. I think you are correct, though. It will be more guard heavy, and we will get up and down and try to play in the transition game a little more.
Well, 2 guys that come to mind there, Ashton Smith, Kai Green, redshirted last year. You brought him in. We got to see him play against Benedictine a little bit, and then, they sat up. But with those guys getting the red shirt removed, how excited are you to see them in maybe a bigger role this year?
Well, I'm excited to see anytime you have freshmen that red shirt, you want to see the next year. So Kai is one with, brother playing in the finals this year. Like Josh played pretty well in games. Very athletic. You want to see Kai's natural progression onto things. And then outside of that, because Ashton actually, we didn't publicize or anything. I don't even know if he publicized. He transferred away. Oh, okay. So he transferred out. I don't know where he went. Like I said, I'm still getting feet under me. I've been gone for a while.
Understood.
But it's going to be very interesting to see what Kai, the development and the skill that he has made.
Yeah, so at least 9 players from last year's roster are going to be back this year, so plenty of pieces like a Zion Swader, obviously playing that guard role the last few years, Julius Dixon, who's been all MIAA in his past, just to name a couple. Josh Book, am I seeing he's been doing some 3-on-3 stuff down in New Zealand? Or
So he's been representing his country in New Zealand. They just won a regional in, I think, Malaysia.
Wow.
So qualified for Worlds or the World Cup of 3x3, not obviously not the Olympics, but this can hopefully propel him to that stage.
Okay.
So
nice.
He played well. He shot the ball really well from the 2 games that I watched. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess last thing for you, we know the season will get rolling about late October is usually when we get that first exhibition. Practice will start a few weeks before that. What level of work are you able to do with the guys at this point, and just what is the energy like right now, just knowing what you did last year, but knowing what was maybe left on the table as well?
Well, so we only have a few on campus right now. They worked a elite camp that we had yesterday, so they're kind of sticking around. I can't show them film. I can't work them out.
Sure.
I can't be on the court. None of us can, and it's kind of on them. It's group led. Zion, Julius are kind of leading that, Ethan as well, and it'll be good when we are able to finally get our hands on them and touch them and make that connection and everything. It'll be, I think, the 4th day of school is our legal day that we can do something with them.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Before we ever do anything, I always have to call Madeline to make sure that we don't break any rules.
Right.
But we'll get going quick as soon as we can and make a big stride early, and then hopefully keep that going on the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll blink, and MIAA basketball media day will be here. The schedule will drop sometime once we get rolling this semester, and we'll be playing basketball in Looney and many other places coming up this 24-25 season. That's Missouri Western assistant men's basketball coach Jon Hood. Also was assisting as a coach for La Familia, a Kentucky alumni team in the basketball tournament 2024, the 2 seed from the Lexington Regional, getting all the way to the semifinals, where they lost to eventual champion Carmen's Crew, the Ohio State alumni team, in a competitive games that were televised on FS1, and games that will be talked about, I think, for a little while. What a great roster and run for Coach Hood and the Kentucky family that participated in that. Coach Hood, thanks for coming on. I do hope some of BBN gets to hear this as well. And thanks for being a guest today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thank you. And again, that's the GSI podcast. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll talk to you next time.